Hello and welcome back to my channel. And yes, we have our dogs with us today because we will be demonstrating. Today we are going over our first coat type, which today we are doing double coated dogs. So here I have with me my two girls. Chani's on the table right now. She's all dried and bathed, obviously, and ready to go. We also have her nails done. So now we're gonna just go over double coated breeds. And when it goes later too, we'll get our little BB. She's right there making a cameo up on the table as well. Because there are kind of almost two different coat looks or coat types, I guess, when it comes to double coated dogs. Really, one of them technically is classified by AKC as smooth coated, but a lot of the grooming techniques are the same. It's just for longer or shorter breeds. So anyways, first we do have Chani. Now this is our older girl. We've had her for longer. She is a lab Shar-Pei husky mix. So she looks super nice right now, right? There's not a lot of hair coming off of her. You'll see as we get going, there is quite a bit that we need to take off of her. For her type of coat, and generally also mostly labs fall into this and other kind of shorter haired dogs like that. You'll also see like French bulldogs, boxers, pointers, like a lot of those kind of shorter, smoother haired coat dogs. They use a lot of these same techniques. So first of all, with the bath, I always recommend on these dogs doing a furminator as needed. For Chani, we do not like having a lot of shedding fur in our house, even though no matter how much we furminate her or do a de-shed package, she keeps shedding. So what we do here at Pet Sweets is we use a furminator shampoo. I always use a conditioner as well when doing the furminator, because what it does is it dries out the skin so that the dead hair follicles or the undercoat can fall out a lot more easy. But because it dries the skin out, we then have to rehydrate that. I know, baby. So then we put that conditioner back in so that we can reintroduce that moisture to the skin and coat. For my girls though, I do use Hydra shampoo. It's like the best of the best. I just use a super moisturizing one. And it still gets the job done. So if that is something you're interested in, you can always talk to your groomer about using a different shampoo or conditioner for your de-shed package, and they'll be able to give you a little more information on your dog's coat type. Alright, so now we will get started. After bath and blow dry for these dogs, it's really simple. It's just a lot of brushing and then nails. The two most common tools are going to be, here we use our furminator brush. We have the orange size, which is the medium, and then also this is a rubber curry brush. I get the Zoom Groom from Kong, very awesome. Or if you do go to a fancier groomer, which is a technique I'm actually learning soon, they do what's called carding or hand stripping on these dogs as well. The furminator is basically just like a super fail-safe, easy way to do that. If you do get this brush for home though, I wouldn't recommend overusing it, as you can overstrip a coat and then that will irritate their skin. And there is a little bit of a blade here, as is with all hand strippers or carders, unless you're using it like a pumice stone. And so you just want to be really careful. If you hit a snag, just stop and then you can go back or lift up. And then the rubber curry brush, very easy. This is what I recommend most of my pet parents that have these dogs get at home. These dogs really do not tangle at all or mat unless you do not get their undercoat out for a very, very, very long time. And even then, it's very hard for these dogs to mat. So as you will see, we'll start to do what's called carding or furminate Chani, and she has some hot spots where she gets a lot of fur. Mainly, these dogs get it right around their ears, kind of right in the scruffy area, and then on their butt, which Chani does not love, but we're going to do it anyways. And then their sides, or especially Chani, her sides get pretty fluffy. Those are also, the sides are a little harder to furminate or strip, just because it's a little more tender on the dog and it's at a weirder angle, whereas the back is pretty straightforward. So we will always go over first with our furminator brush pretty well, and then you'll see me throughout the grooms as well. I will randomly pull if I am getting 3 hairs or less coming out, it doesn't hurt the dog if you just very gently tug on them. If I'm getting 3 hairs or less coming out, then that means I did a good job. And then afterwards, once we, you can see all this fun coat coming off her. Once we get all of that off, then I go through with my rubber curry brush. And the rubber curry brush helps to get any kind of that loose fur out that's still there but didn't quite make it out with the brush. And then also it helps get some of their top coat or their coarser wiry coat out. So here is very much, you probably can't see, it's a very different texture than this soft fluffiness I'm getting out from the hand stripping, carding, Furminator, whatever you want to call it. But the wiry, harsher upper coat we get out with the groom. So that is really all that there is to do with these dogs, other than toothbrushing and nails, which if you do get a bath, which I recommend bath every 3 to 4 weeks. Really with these dogs though, if you do not mind them being a little more dirty, you can push it to 6 to 8 weeks, or even longer, but I do recommend getting a bath and a nail trim. Well, a bath at least every 6 to 8 weeks, and then a nail trim really you should be getting on for every dog about 3 to 4 weeks. Like I said, for my dogs are a little different. We do 2 weeks, both for nails and for their Furminator combo. So that is your shorter haired double coated dogs. And then I will be back in a few minutes when we get BB on the table to talk about our longer coated, double coated dogs. Hello, Editing Mary here. So while watching the video that I filmed, it was actually last week at work, I realized that I forgot to talk about a couple of pretty important things with our double coated breeds, specifically the longer ones that I will be sharing in this upcoming clip with BB on my table. So a couple things. And our longer coated double coated breed dogs, that's a lot. Our dogs, I'll go over this too, such as your golden retrievers, your Australian shepherds, German shepherds, border collies, huskies, Alaskan malamutes. There's a lot of those kind of longer coated double breed dogs that are very popular and we see quite a bit. Anyways, though, back to the stuff I left out. So number one, I left out compaction and matting in these dogs, which is crazy because that's the thing we see at least most often that leads to us having to shave at least part of them down. And with these breeds, I did mention it, and we'll go over this again, but we never want to shave these dogs down unless we go over in detail with the pet parent, because it can ruin not only their coat and the double coated nature of it, but it can also change personality, cause eating issues. There's a bunch of different things and reasons why we don't want to shave these dogs down. But anyways, some cases we do have to shave sections of it. We always try to minimally shave if we have to, due to compaction and matting. And I did go over this. The areas for matting in these dogs are specifically in the butt area, the back leg, and the tail is what I see most often. And then usually most dogs, if they don't get brushed, they'll have little mats behind their ears. There's usually some fluffier fur back there that mats pretty easily when it sheds or starts to come out, and just with all the friction. So those, oh, and then the stomach as well. But generally it's the butt, the ears, and the tail where we see the most matting. So that's where, if you are brushing at home, which you should be, at least these dogs at least once or twice a week, those are the areas you'll want to concentrate your brushing in. And when we say brushing at home, I do not mean you need to be de-shedding your dog every single day, or even every week. But you just want to make sure that you're getting the tangles out. That way it does not lead to matting and compaction. So matting and compaction, they're two different things, but both of them happen in this type of dog. Compaction really only does happen with your double coated dogs that shed like this. I haven't actually seen it, I believe, in any other type of dog, which makes sense. What it is essentially is the undercoat will come out, but not all the way, because there has to be movement and brushing for the undercoat to be able to come out usually. but it will get compacted due to like water being introduced or due to like the dog putting weight on it. So what I mean is usually we'll see that in the butt or on the belly and chest area due to the dog sitting on this fur and it kind of just getting smushed down over time. Compaction and matting look very similar, but they are different. Matting is like full on tangles. Compaction is it's just kind of gotten squished and formed a mass. Compaction you can sometimes get out if it's not too terrible. It just requires a lot more time and effort and skill and knowledge on how to get it out. And what I mean by this is usually when you do a deshed, you bathe the dog with the Furminator, dry it, and then brush it. If the coat is compacted, especially severely, you have to do a pre-blowout before you blow it with the velocity dryer to try to loosen the fur up a little bit. And then in the bath, you actually use a conditioner first. It will help loosen and kind of get some of those follicles to open up. And then you put the shampoo on, and then you condition again once all that is done. So it's a little more work in the bath. We also have a special nozzle that we use to get some of this fur out, which don't use at home because if you use it incorrectly, it can damage the dog's skin. Only professionals can use the special de-shedding nozzle, or at least that's what I recommend. And yeah, and then you have to blow them while brushing usually in order to help get that fur out and dry it all the way. Matting is like actual tangles, and a lot of times you cannot get that out, and so it does have to be shaved. Only if the compaction is severe do we have to shave it, or if the dog is not tolerating brushing and all the tugging on its skin, because it is still a lot of brushing to get it out. Yeah, so that is a little bit of the difference between compaction and matting. If you do have an experienced groomer, they should be able to tell you the difference and tell you what your dog does have. I always tell my pet parents it's compaction, we should be able to get it out, or there's compaction here and a little bit of matting here. But yeah, like I said, with either of those, we never want to shave a dog, but with matting, most of the time we do have to shave these dogs because usually the mats, unless they're little ones behind the ears that we can sometimes scissor out, usually they're really close to the skin because of the nature of their double coats. And so it's very hard to get those mats out. But yeah, compaction, again, it's because the fur's been compacted into a tighter space, especially it's all the fur that's been shedded out but hasn't been able to be brushed out or taken out. Usually done again with sitting on it or laying down. That's why we mainly see it in the butt area and the stomach and chest of these dogs. Matting, it's tangles. Usually we see it behind the ears, stomach again, and then butt and tail area, and a lot of times the hind legs, those high friction areas again. So yeah, that's the difference between those. The other thing was, we'll go over a little more in detail, is shaving double-coated dogs. I kind of touched on it briefly, and I'll touch on it briefly again in the clip you'll see next. But we never want to shave these dogs down. Obviously, there are some pet parents that prefer it. Sometimes they think that their dog sheds less. That's actually not the case. Your dog will still shed if you shave it down. The only difference is now they are shedding short, little, sharp pieces of fur because it's been clippered instead of growing out naturally. And so you can actually get what are called hair splinters quite a bit easier. If you don't know what hair splinters are, they are, like they said, it's little short pieces of dog fur, usually a little more wiry. So that's why with these ones, because they have that harsher overcoat or outer coat, when you shave it, they become sharp little pieces when they shed and it falls out, and that can lodge into your skin because they're sharp. They are not fun, believe me. I get them almost on a daily basis just because of the nature of my job. And my cousin, she's actually a hairstylist professionally for humans, not dogs. She says that she gets them a lot too. They're not fun. You don't want them. So if you want to shave your dog down for shedding reasons, don't do it. There are, like I discussed later, lifestyle options that some people want. Just make sure that if it is a lifestyle choice, like you go swimming a lot with your dog and drying it is a big hassle, drying and then brushing, because you always want to brush your dog after you dry it, or it can cause matting. But if that is too much of an issue, then you can talk to your groomer about that. Again, they'll probably go over all the same concerns, but ultimately the decision is up to you as the owner of the pet. I do have a couple clients that do get shaved down that are double coated dogs, and it is a lifestyle choice. Neither of them need it for any specific reason, but the owners, that's just their choice. And even with explaining, the consequences or what could happen, they still opt in for that. Reasons we don't want to shave a double coated dog: one, it ruins their coat. That is the main reason. Really, once you shave it, there is no going back to a beautiful full double coated dog. So you want to be very careful with this choice. What happens is it's going to cause the undercoat to get a little harsher, and it's going to cause the overcoat to get a little softer. This actually happens if you shave wire coated dogs as well. So like your schnauzers, if you do shave them or get them cut, and you want to show them or have them as, a little more of a breed standard type dog, you actually will also need to do some hand stripping or carding to help get that coat back to more of a wiry nature. But with these dogs, it's very hard to go back to a full, beautiful double coat after you have shaved it. Obviously, for matting and compaction, if you're doing just a little section in the butt, generally the coat will be fine. But if it's the entire dog and you do it over and over again, especially, it's very difficult to go back to a beautiful coat that has like the same texture and qualities that we like in these dogs. Yeah, and another thing that can happen is we talk about a like attitude or a personality change. You can think about it this way: when you shave a dog down like that has had a full coat of fur that protects them from the elements, it's basically like taking a human and throwing them, this is how it was explained to me, you throw them into a shopping mall but butt naked. They're gonna feel weird. That's the same feeling that your dog is feeling once you shave off that double coat, because it's like taking their clothes away but still having them out in public. So you will most likely see a personality shift. Sometimes they become a little more shy and timid. Sometimes they become a little more, aggressive or assertive. It does just depend on the dog. I have seen it multiple times. Whenever we are doing these shave downs, we actually always do as much of the groom before the bath, which includes nails, teeth brushing, like all the little things that usually we do after the bath, except for really like finishing work. Because once you bathe that dog then and they feel the difference and blow dry it, they act very differently on the table. A lot of times they'll be more reactive to things than they usually are. This also just happens really with any shave down you have, like a matted dog as well, because it's the same feeling, even if it's a curly coated dog. So that's kind of the main reason, well, the second main reason we don't want to shave those dogs down. Other things too, people have seen changes in eating habits. They might not want to eat because they just feel weird, or they'll eat more because they're like, I want to grow my coat back. It really just depends. Sorry, inversion weather has been getting to me big time here. Another reason too is it can cause skin issues as well. Again, these dogs were not meant to have, their skin more exposed to the elements. That coat really does help protect them. So sometimes they can develop drier skin, and just like overall skin irritability. So you want to just be very careful with that. Yeah, those are kind of the main reasons that we don't want to shave those dogs down. So we just want to be very careful and make sure that our clients know the risks of shaving these dogs down. Excuse me. But yeah. One other thing you'll notice if you do shave your dog down is they will not be the same color. Usually with these dogs, the outer coat is a much darker color. And so as that grows over their undercoat, the shade of the dog gets darker. So like I have a German Shepherd that I shaved down, unfortunately. Again, pet parent knows the risks and it's her choice, and so I do it. Um, we love the dog. The dog is great. Her name's Harley. But when we shave her down, it takes off that, kind of darker brown and black overcoat, and she's a lot lighter in color. She's a tan, more of a tan color with a couple of, darker black patches here and there. So that is another difference you will notice, is your dog will not be the same color. Yeah, I think that's at least all the main ones we go over. If there's any other concerns, a good groomer will go over them with you. Oh, and then the last thing I forgot to go over was how often we should get these dogs in for service. So as I mentioned with Chani, you want to get every single dog in, no matter what breed, for nails every 3 to 4 weeks. The only exception is if they are grinding their nails down naturally by walking on cement. And again, a groomer will be able to tell you if this is happening. I always tell my pet parents, just so you know, we weren't able to take a lot off because they grind them down naturally. If that's the case, I recommend nail grinding over trimming, because really you're just rounding the edge off. And even then, a lot of times with those types of dogs that do that, there's not a lot to take off or round off anyways. But generally every 3 to 4 weeks, unless told otherwise. And we'll go over that more in a nail trimming video that we'll do probably in May. I would like to get that one out. But yeah, 3 to 4 weeks for nails. Generally, every 6 to 8 weeks is what we see best, especially for our longer double-coated dogs, for a Furminator or D-shed package. And the reason is 6 to 8 weeks. One, that's what most of my pet parents have seen the most success with. They don't have as much hair in their home. And it's also like a good happy medium between getting them in every like 3 to 4 weeks. And the longer end, kind of meeting in the middle, being both cost efficient to you guys, because I know grooming can be expensive, but also getting them in frequently enough to where we are taking care of that dog and their needs. Also, 6 to 8 weeks is actually the average life cycle of your dog's hair. Now, all of your dog's hair does not grow at the same rate, just like our human hair. It's all in different, life cycles, or stages of life. Oops, sorry, BB's right here. There we go. She's kicking my little ottoman. But anyways, so it's all kind of at different life cycles, but generally 6 to 8 weeks is enough time for that undercoat that you take out to regrow and then be ready to shed again, or at least the older stuff. And again, it's in a continuous cycle, so you're always taking out and it's always growing. But yeah, so that's generally 6 to 8 weeks for a Furminator. And then I say haircut as needed. Again, we're doing that feather or perimeter trim or outline trim. I will call it feather trim most of the time. That's just the one that I use and that my clients I found use the most. And so generally you'll do that feather trim as needed. Some pet parents like their dogs to have a nice tight feather trim, which is where you take it a little bit tighter, give more shape to the dog. Whereas a light feather trim, you're just neatening, barely taking anything off. There's not as much shape to the dog. It's more flowy. Yeah, and then you can go in the middle too and have a medium feather trim. But generally, a lot of my clients, especially like Goldens and Aussies that like that tighter feather trim, they'll do it every 6 to 8 weeks when they come in. If you only want like your dog's butt trimmed or behind their ears trimmed or neatened, because you like it a certain way, then that is totally fine too. Again, these dogs do not need a haircut, but it is really good to have your dog look a certain way if you like that. Or if matting is an issue, that's when I would recommend taking those areas a little shorter. Obviously, we're not going so short as to damage the undercoat. Unless it is matted, then we do sometimes have to shave, like I said earlier. But when we go shorter, there is a certain length I do not go under because that can damage the coat. And if I have to go under that length, I will tell the pet parent and get their approval before so. But yeah, so that's how often you should be getting them in. I think that was everything I needed to add. Right, we did matting compaction, we did shaving, and we did how often we should get it. Yeah, that is everything. Okay, so that is it. We'll go back to Salon Mary, and I will be getting BB up on my table to show you a little bit more about these longer coated dogs I also just talked about. And we are back with BB now. And you'll see Chani wandering around. One thing I forgot to point out in the last segment with Chani is I do not let dogs off leash in here. I always have dogs on slip leads unless it is just me and my girls and there's no other dogs in this whole salon. So that's why they're off leash. But if there was another dog being worked on the table, which is where you guys are right now, one, I wouldn't be filming, and two, I would definitely have my girls on a leash. That's something very important safety-wise, because even though the dog I might be working on might be very good, or my girls might be friendly, I don't know how that other dog is going to react to another dog off leash saying hello or whatever, while there's usually sharp objects around them. So that's just another little safety thing. Okay, so BB here, she's our little one. Funny enough, they're actually only about a month apart in age, even though we got maybe 6 months after we got Chani. But anyways, BB is a German Shepherd Border Collie mix, like I said in our intro video. However, her previous owners who had her when she was a puppy, obviously they didn't feed her. So she has a very big growth stint. And because of that as well, her coat didn't fully develop properly. So her coat is kind of a little weird. She is double coated, but she does not have a super like luscious undercoat. And we've tried everything. We had him on a raw diet. We had, oh, sorry, she's looking. I accidentally slightly injured her while I was doing her prep work, but she is fine. There was a new mole underneath her foot that I did not see, but she will be fine. But anyways, so because of that, she has a different coat than her breed is supposed to, or her mix is supposed to, at least if you look it up online. And yeah, her double coat isn't as big, but she still does have the same general shaping and everything that our bigger, more luscious double coated breeds have. These are breeds such as full blowout huskies. Chani is a husky mix, but she does not have that coat at all. Especially the longer ones, Alaska Malamutes, Newfoundlands, St. Bernards, Australian Shepherds is another one, and Golden Retrievers. Those are the ones we get most often are Golden Retrievers and Australian Shepherds, and then obviously Border Collies and German Shepherds with, BB's mix. But anyways, so we have done prep work on BB again. That includes bath, blowout, nails, and I personally like to trim her paw pads. Typically, both on our short call, especially our shorter double-coated dogs, so like labs and stuff, I generally do not do a sanitary unless the pet parent asks for it, or if they're getting a shave down just because it looks better overall. BB though, I do not do a sanitary on her. She does not have the hair down there really for it anyways, and the little hair that she does, generally I like to keep on so she can be a little bit warmer during the winter. We even have her wear a sweater during the winter. Luckily it's warmed up around here. So yeah, that is kind of the prep work that goes into them. Oh, also I do generally recommend shaving the paw pads. With BB, I do a 30 blade. I go in between the paws. Unless your dog is like a working dog, then, and by working I mean working out in like fields or snow or mountains, because that fur will help protect, especially the in-between the paw pads. If it is covering the paw pads, I would still recommend shaving it, so if it's really long and fluffy down there. Okay, so BB's breed, what generally we do, and longer coated dogs, for their D-shed, oh, but mine is a little off its kilter. I need to fix that. This is what we call a king break. Looks very fancy. I need to bring it up closer. It has these little, now each of these little things has a blade on them. So there's the blade that is kind of underneath. Chani. Sorry, Chani gets very anxious and wants to go home. Anyways, back to this. There are blades underneath each of these little curved sections. So I generally do not recommend using one of these at home. I would recommend bringing your dog into your groomer to use, or having your groomer go over this with you in person so you can really see it and get a feel for it. But yeah, so don't stick your fingers in here, you will get cut. There was one time early on in my career when I was over at PetSmart, actually, I was still a bather. I was helping a groomer do a de-shed that was really bad on a husky, and he accidentally, we were both going on a different side of the dog, he accidentally raked over my hand, and it got cut, not bad enough to get stitches, but still, you know, there was blood, and that was fun. Phoebe, though, we generally do not use this. Again, she doesn't have really any double coat that's coming out. I mean, maybe a little bit, but you use this with a Siberian Husky, and there is fur everywhere. It comes out like crazy. So this is generally what we will use once they are brushed out. And then also, again, our handy dandy rubber curry blade, or rubber curry brush. Generally, again, I don't use this on Phoebe because nothing comes out on her. She sheds very minimally at home. And then lastly, the thing that I generally use to brush these dogs, besides just our normal brush and comb combo, is actually a hand stripper or carder, whatever you want to call them. Generally, I think they're called hand strippers. But just like the Furminator, it does have, you can see where the little combing area is there. There is a blade underneath there. I was like, did I just cut myself? No, I did not. But yeah, so you just want to be very careful. Generally, I do not use this very often. I got it actually for Bibi. She does get some fluffies that is kind of higher up on her arm. And so I will go through and just kind of hand strip those off. It just makes her and her finish look a little bit nicer. Generally though, hand stripping and carding, the most you'll see it is on like the more wiry texture dogs, and then also you'll see it a lot on what are known as jacketed dogs, so like your setters and your spaniels, essentially. Let me just take that, and I actually did most of this by hand the other day at home, but there is, barely see it, against the white. There's a little bit of fluffy. She gets it worse on her back legs. There we go. And right here, a little bit of white. Like I said, the other day at home it was really bad, so I just pulled it out by hand. I wouldn't recommend doing that unless your dog is very calm like Phoebe is and used to grooming. If not, let a professional handle it. On the other side. And with hand stripping, we always go with the grain of the fur. Now there is just a little bit we got off. Don't even know if you can see it because the lighting in here makes it, I can't see what's on the camera super well. Okay, so that goes for at least the brushing. At home, I would recommend for these longer dogs a slicker brush and a greyhound comb. I always recommend, this is the Chris Christensen, I believe it's the big K or there's the big G. The black one is for more wiry coated dogs like your schnauzers and stuff. And then the pink one is good for basically all other dogs. They're basically, they're more designed for like curly coated and doodles. But the bristles are a lot softer on the dog's skin and they are longer, which always helps with your longer coated dogs. The reason why we do both the slicker brush and then the greyhound comb is sometimes your brush can actually slide over a mat if the top of it especially is brushed out. And so we then use a greyhound comb to go back through and check our work. Now I don't recommend at home brushing and combing your entire dog. Johnny, off. Thank you. But generally with these dogs, there are some areas that are higher risk for matting. That is going to be their soft, fluffy behind the ears. Generally their stomach, because they're laying down a lot. And then other high mat areas or high friction areas are going to be their back legs, and this is called their tuck up area right here. their butt, and their tail. And so always brush and then go through with a greyhound comb on those. For these types of dogs, I would recommend doing that probably once a week. If you could do more, do twice at least. But generally, they're not going to get as matted as like your curly coated dogs and your silky dogs. So then the other thing is haircut. What haircut do these dogs get? It is known as, usually I call it a feather trim, but it is interchangeably used with outline or perimeter trim as well. And generally what this is, you can see on BB right now because I haven't cut her in a while, and usually when I do it's a very light trim. But there is this fringe underneath on her tummy, you can see. She has a little bit of fringe on the back of her front legs. Her butt does have a lot of flowing fringe. And then BB's tail is always weird because, again, her body proportions are a little funky because of her growth stage. But their tail as well. And so, oh, and also, if you would like, their toes. Their toes get these, we call them grinchy toes. The fur that stands straight up from in between their toes. I actually like how the Grinch toes look on BB, but they get matted, and she does not like brushing in between them. So I recommend just, to save your dog. Most dogs don't love their feet being touched. I mean, I don't like mine being touched either. They're sensitive. And it's the exact same on dogs. Sorry, Chani is getting real anxious. She wants to go home and see her sister and her dad. But yeah, so that's generally the haircut that they will get. Usually, they're not going to pull out their straight shears or their curved shears for these types of dogs. I generally use my thinners, which are ones with, we have this comb on the top, or a comb-like section, and then there's a blade on the other side. Chunkers, which are the same, there's just bigger sections in between the comb pieces. My favorite on these, especially the butts, is my curved chunkers. And then for the paws, we use thinners as well. So just a lot of neatening. There's not really like a full shave down body cut that we do unless requested. Again, I don't recommend doing that for these dogs because it can actually ruin their double coat, especially the top layer of their coat. And then it can grow back really patchy. There's actually like research that's been shown that their personality will change if you shave them down. Which is very interesting, and I have seen it happen before with a couple of my clients. So generally we just recommend a feather or an outline trim. A lot of pet parents do shave their dogs down, their double coat dogs, because they're worried about them getting too hot in the summer. As long as the coat is actually properly de-shedded or carded, or you're getting the undercoat out properly, whatever word you want to use for that, the coat is going to be able to breathe. And essentially that either means it will keep heat in during the winter, or it will keep cool air in during the summer. So it's a very versatile coat, which is really, really cool. So we don't like to shave these dogs down. If you have a lifestyle thing, like I know there's some golden retrievers that swim a lot, and even though their coat is made for swimming, and keeping them nice and warm in the water, some pet parents don't want to have to dry their dog off for hours on end, and so they will opt to shave it down. If that's something, as long as you go over with your groomer and you know the risks of shaving down your double-coated dog, more than okay. I always go over those risks and I make note of it in our system if I get a dog that wants to shave down on a double-coated dog. But that is it for now. I'm going to finish BB up. She needs just a little bit of hair trimming. And then we're going to go home because Chani is, getting very anxious. Next month, because this is the second video for March. So in April, we are going to go over puppies. And then also we will do our curly-coated dogs. So I'm very excited for that. Those will be a lot of fun. You'll get to meet our new dog, as well as me and my husband get to in about a week here. We'll probably actually have her by the time this video goes up. But until then, stay safe out there. Tell your dog I said hello and give him lots of puppy kisses for me. Bye-bye.